In my last video, I showed you how to create percussion grooves using a rather complex method with battery. Today, I want to keep it really simple and show you a really fun device to create drum grooves called DrumBrain. So let's dive in. DrumBrain is a free Max for Live device used to create 909, 808 type drum patterns, but you can also use it for organic house percussion and techno and other genres as well. So we have this MIDI track loaded up in here. In this MIDI track, I'm going to load in DrumBrain. This device is for free. I'm going to link it down in the description below. It is absolutely overpowered and fun to use. It's meant to be used with drum racks, but you can load in any instrument. You can put in Diva here, your favorite synth, Omnisphere, synth one-shots, and just play around with it. For the sake of demonstration, I'm going to use it with a drum rack. Let's just load in the default drum rack that Ableton Live gives us. By the way, I'm working with Ableton Live 12 today. I'll explain in a second why. There's a really cool feature called Sample Similarity Swap that can be really amazing for this. If you don't feel like putting together your drum sounds, what you can do is just go through your individual kits. Ableton Live gives you a ton of different kits in this drum rack panel, or in this drums panel, I mean. Or you can also go into clips over here, select one of your favorite clips, load that into this session, into an empty track, and it'll automatically give you not only the MIDI clip, but also the drum rack. And if you combine that with the DrumBrain, that can also be cool. But we're going to delete that. We're just going to work with this empty drum rack. I want to show you the entire process of creating this from scratch. You can see a variety of different instruments here. So we have bass drum, snare drum, low tom, mid tom, high tom, rim shot, clap, cowbell, cymbal, open hi-hat, closed hi-hat, accentuations, and flams. And each and every single one of these instruments corresponds to a pitch. The bass drum corresponds to C1. So we know C1 is the bass drum. We have to load in some kind of kick into here. SD, snare drum, D1. So on this D1 panel, we're going to load a snare drum. Low tom, G1. We're going to load in a lower tom sound into G1. You get the point. I'm going to fast forward through this process and just select a couple of sounds that I personally like. Okay, now I have individual samples loaded into these slots, and if I hit play, it sounds like this. It sounds cool, but I feel like we could tweak it a bit more to make it slightly more usable. Let's do some rough mixing on the side. I feel like some elements are a bit too loud, so what I'm going to do is individually tweak the ones that I feel like stand out too much. I feel like the kick is barely audible, so I'm just going to increase the volume here. Maybe the hi-hats, also tune them down. I know this might be a bit manual, but it's worth it. Maybe increase the high tom a bit. What you can do for individual sounds is also go into classic mode and tweak the sustain, decay to shorten down the sounds. What I usually like to do is change the sustain to -infinity and then change the decay to a value where I feel like it's really snappy. For example, this clap over here, before, after, tighten down your drums to make it more snappy. And if you don't like certain sounds, you can also mute them here. I'm just going to mute the low tom. Or mute all of the toms. You can see there's a little flam knob over here, which generates you like these flams of multiple notes that seem to create an offset effect. You can also change the flam to a higher amount. You hear that rim shot? We change it to 10 milliseconds, that flam amount decreases. You can also disable the flam if you just want the notes to be straight. I honestly kind of like that a bit more. Yeah, let's leave out the toms for now. Once you get the sounds to a point where you feel like they're usable, you can then start generating different patterns. You can do that for each and every single instrument right here. You can also do it for the accentuation. Like an Afro rhythm out of nowhere. Really cool. You can also change the generated rhythm style from house to breaks. I must admit, this is quite similar to Alex Kidd's Instant House drum sequencer. I think this is also based on the same model. But what this one has, what I really like, is it has an all mode. So you can change from drum breaks to house grooves to all. So you combine basically both of them. And if we change the clip length, the pattern length, I mean, to 32 bars, you can hear that all variation inside the entire groove. Notice how it switches through these different styles of rhythms. Whereas if we change it back to house, let's see how it sounds. Yeah, the kick plays more statically, that 4 to the floor groove. What I really like about this is that you can also just generate all parameters with this Gen All knob over here. Devices that have this Generate All button, I love them. Yeah, when I'm not feeling inspired, this just generates us grooves in a really effective way. I'm not really sure what this continue button does. It says it continues the pattern, but I don't feel like there's any difference. This little knob just disables the entire MIDI rack. Shuffle adds groove. Change it back to 50 for a really straight groove. You might want to add like a few percentages of shuffle. Add a bit of groove. I'm gonna hit generate all a couple times. And what I really like about this is that you can also generate a clip. You won't see it here, but if you hit tab, you can see it in your session view. Click. While you drag the clip, you can hit tab, tab out, bring it back to your arrangement view. And if you double click the MIDI clip, you can actually see your MIDI data. And as you can see, there's also that little bit of groove included here. See how it's not perfectly on the grid? That's our groove. Really fun to have this option to create an extra MIDI clip. Once we get a groove that we like, here's where the cool feature comes into play. We can hit sample similarity swap over here and then swap through all the sounds of the drum rack. So it'll scroll through my entire library of samples for sounds that are similar to the ones that I already have loaded up in here. Let's scroll through a couple more sounds. And also blend out the kicks so we can focus in on only the tops. You can also open up this preset panel over here, shift click on one of these slots, hit generate all. That is nice. And then if you like the preset or if you like the sounds that you hear, you can also just simply click shift click on one of these slots and you can always change back and forth from the presets. The one that is highlighted blue is the one that's currently active. Usually what I do if I like a groove is not only export the MIDI, so I could clip it, go into session view, drag that clip into a new track. And since it does copy the devices, I'm just going to delete those since I just want this layer for the MIDI clips. You can also jump back to clip 1, hit clip again. It'll generate you a clip in the next row of the session view. Drag and drop. Now you have 2 different MIDI clips that you can use for a later moment. If you hit Command Shift E, you can also export your MIDI files as you can see here. But again, I don't want that for now. I'm going to go back to the original. What I usually like doing is creating audio tracks, resampling, record arm, hit record. See, we've already got ourselves a little top loop here. Maybe put that aside. Then I can sample swap again. Not so much. Again. And if you like only certain sounds, you can lock them. For example, I want to keep these. I don't want them to be randomized. It'll randomize me all the other sounds within this track. You can also blend in the kick, maybe the toms as well. And keep on searching. That is so cool. Holy moly. And anytime you feel like you got something nice, just hit record. And at the end of all this, then you have a variety of different grooves and rhythms that you can dial down on. And if there's one particular one that you like, select that. Hit Command L to loop it up and start going through your drum library. Maybe there are other top loops, hi-hat loops, groove kits or something like that that you can just combine your current loop with to get a more full sound. What I usually like doing is combining it with loose shakers and add a kick of my own. And this gets me inspired. This makes me want to make music. Usually when I put together my drum groove, I get a sound that sounds good. I then move on to the melodic part, usually starting off with some kind of pad sound. I got a lot of those in Yerevan. Tulum also has a couple nice ones. I'm gonna go into synth, atmosphere. Yeah, chucked it in the background. Yeah. Can also loop sections here. That's fun. That's really cool. As always, if you enjoyed, like and subscribe. Grab these sounds on LotusTunes. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.